You can run content syndication campaigns all day, every day, and generate hundreds, maybe even thousands of leads from them. But if you don't know what to do with the leads once you get them and you're not nurturing them, you're never going to book any meetings and you're not going to turn that into any sales dollars. At Real Access, we've run hundreds of campaigns for tech companies doing content syndication for them. And we see people make mistakes with content syndication every single day. So what I want to talk about today is some common mistakes that we see companies make when it comes to content syndication, and then give you a couple tips and things that you can try to do instead so that you can actually have success with your content syndication campaigns. The bottom line is that the content syndication industry has kind of a bad reputation. People think that it's impossible to get really quality leads from there, or people have run campaigns and had a bad experience, or they never run a campaign again. But we've seen firsthand dozens of companies that have found a ton of success through content syndication campaigns, generated hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars in revenue from these campaigns. So it is possible to find success, but it is hard. It does take work, and you need to have a very clear process and strategy in place for what you're going to do with the leads once you generate them in order for these campaigns to be successful. So I would say the most common mistake that we see companies make when it comes to content syndication is taking the lead that they just generated and handing it straight off to the sales team to call and try to schedule an appointment with. You're going to have failure with this pretty much every single time, because the bottom line is a content syndication lead, it's a top of funnel lead. It's not somebody that's going to be ready for a meeting yet. It's somebody that's just raised their hand that they're interested in a piece of content. So this is probably the first time that they're interacting with your brand. They saw your content on a publishing partner's site and they thought it was interesting, so they downloaded it. That doesn't mean that they are to the point in their buying cycle where they're ready to purchase it or maybe even meet with somebody. If somebody's online doing research about a topic and downloading content, they're doing just that. They're in the research phase. They're not yet in the buying phase. And so what marketing's job is to take that content syndication lead that was just generated and nurture that until it is ready to become a lead for sales. Let me give you a real life example of this so that maybe it makes a little bit more sense to you. I have a friend that I was talking to last week who's maybe starting to be interested in starting her own business. So she's been doing a lot of research online, and she found a free online course that is a sampling of a larger course that has some free resources and things that she can download. So she fills out a form on the website, she downloads the assets, and she's consuming them. She's a top of funnel lead at this point. If a sales rep from that company calls her up and says, "Hey friend, I saw that you downloaded some of our content. I want to sell you the course today. Can we talk about that?" And she might say, "No, not really interested at this time. I'm just doing research." Does that make her a bad lead? I would say no. To a salesperson, it probably comes across as a bad lead because she said she's not interested in their service. But the bottom line is 6 months from now, when she's actually ready to pull the trigger and maybe start her own business, she could be a great lead. And so what you don't want to do is lose her or throw her out in that time frame. If the salesperson goes into the CRM and marks her as a bad lead and then they don't follow up, that's potentially a missed opportunity. So what should this company have done instead of having the salesperson call her up? They should have sent her down a nurture sequence. So they probably have a lot of other assets around starting a business, resources for entrepreneurs. They should trickle those out to her. They can send her emails, they can recommend podcasts, they can maybe have YouTube videos. They should be sending those to her to continue her education so that when she is ready to jump in and maybe buy the bigger course because she's ready to go start her business, they're top of mind for her. She's been seeing their content for the last 3 to 6 months, and now that she's ready to purchase, this company is who she's going to go to. Another really common mistake that we'll see is companies not having any sort of nurturing plan or nurturing strategy in place before they start generating their leads. And the reason that this tends to happen is because it takes some time to actually build out nurture sequences in your CRM or your marketing automation tool. A lot of people don't want to wait. They think, hey, I'll generate the leads now, and then once I have them, then I'll go and I'll start planning out how I'm going to nurture them. That's not the right way to think about this. You don't want a gap between when you generate the lead and when you start to nurture it. Every day that lead is just sitting somewhere in your CRM not being talked to, it's getting colder and colder. It's really important that when somebody downloads that first piece of content, they hear from you again very quickly after that. You'll hear a lot of different numbers thrown around about how many touches it takes to take a lead from a first touch to a sale. I've heard numbers in between 8 to 14. So you can just assume it's somewhere in there. So you want to be getting your minimum of 8 touches on this contact before you expect them to be ready to talk to a salesperson or go further in the sales process. It takes money. You have to invest in these content syndication campaigns to generate the leads. So why would you then take the money that you've spent to generate these leads and let the leads sit and get cold? You're basically flushing money down the drain. You want a really quick turnaround between when you generate the lead to when you start your nurture sequence. That dovetails us into the next mistake that we see people make all the time, which is having really inconsistent communication in their nurture sequence. So what companies will do is they'll generate the lead, they'll maybe send them one email a couple days or a week after they've generated the lead, and then it'll be months before they try to reach out to this lead again. And it's made even worse if the first time you reach back out to them, it's a salesperson calling them. So what you want to do is plan ahead and have a calendar of how often you're going to reach out to this person and when you're going to reach out to them. I would recommend at a minimum have a touch point a week with them. If you have a longer sales cycle, maybe 5 to 6 months or more, you could stretch that out a bit, maybe do every 2 weeks. But the shorter your sales cycle is, the more condensed you want your nurture period to be. This is walking a fine line though. You don't want to annoy your leads or people that are in your marketing funnel. You want to hit just the right balance between continuing to educate them, but not reaching out so much that you're annoying. I wouldn't recommend reaching out every single day. And one way that you can try to make your nurturing a little bit more dynamic is don't just reach out to them the same way every single time. Don't just send them an email every time asking for a meeting. Make sure that your content is something that's really valuable to them. Not using value forward nurturing is also a big mistake. We like to use and preach the 90-10 rule, which means that 90% of the time you're providing the prospect with value and you're only asking them for something 10% of the time. So if you're a company that's nurturing your leads, but every single time you reach out to them, you're just asking them for a meeting with you, that's not really a nurture. You're not providing any value to them. You're not educating them. You're not entertaining them. You're not inspiring them with your content. You're not providing something that's valuable to them by asking them for a meeting. That's all about you. That's not about them. The key is to make your nurturing all about your prospect. What are the questions that they have that they need answered? What are they uncertain about? What are their objections? What's missing in their company right now that they need help with? Serve all of that content up to them on a platter, and that's what's going to move them through your marketing funnel. If you don't really know where to start when it comes to planning your nurture sequence or your content calendar for your nurturing, what I would recommend doing is look at the last 5 clients that you've booked and then look back in your CRM or through your sales notes and see what was the journey that this person or this company went on with you. What touch points were there? How far apart were those touch points? What kind of questions did that person ask? And then this is all information that you can use to build your nurture sequence. So if you were seeing that the person was wanting to be contacted around once a week, schedule your nurture to be once a week. If they're asking questions around certain problems that they're having or certain use cases, then send people that content before they even need to ask for it. That's perfect content to be sending out to them as part of your nurture sequence, probably in the form of an email. Using the wrong metrics to measure the success of your content syndication campaign is also a pretty common pitfall that a lot of companies will fall into. We have companies come to us all the time that say, I want immediate ROI, and so I'm thinking of running a content syndication campaign because I can get a ton of leads that way. And we'll push back on that. Sometimes we'll even have to turn that business away because the bottom line is you're not going to get immediate ROI off of content syndication leads. As I've talked about this whole time, content syndication leads require additional nurturing. That takes time. If you think it's just going to be the flip of a switch and you're going to get sales the next day, that's not the reality of this. So instead of using metrics like what's my ROI going to be in 30 days, you should be using things like the open rates on your nurture emails, the number of leads that are moving through your lead scoring criteria, number of conversations that have been started with the contacts. If you're only looking at what's my short-term ROI off of this campaign, it's probably going to look like the campaign wasn't successful, when in reality, maybe it actually was really successful for this type of tactic. Instead, look at longer-term metrics and metrics around the nurturing. The real goal of a content syndication campaign is to generate the lead and start moving them through the marketing funnel. So if you're seeing that progress where they are moving through the marketing funnel, then the campaign's actually going really well. This is a tactic that is for a longer-term approach, and it's important to understand that before you launch a content syndication campaign. Not leveraging marketing automation can also make this entire process extremely difficult. It's very hard to nurture leads if you don't have a CRM with marketing automation built into it. If you're trying to manage an email schedule with somebody by just setting to-do reminders or having it in your notepad, things are going to get missed. It's pretty crucial to be able to build out a nurture campaign ahead of time and then just load the leads up into it. The CRM that we typically recommend is HubSpot. It's very easy to use, it's very user-friendly, and their marketing automation is very straightforward. There's a lot of other options out there as well. It's more important that you have one than which one you specifically use. So find the one that's right for you and load up your nurture sequences in there ahead of time to make your life significantly easier. All right, that's all I've got for you guys today. Hopefully you feel a little bit better about content syndication at this point, feel like you know a little bit more about how to run a campaign successfully. The key things I would take away from this are patience is very important when it comes to content syndication, and having a really solid plan and realistic expectations are also important. But it's a great tactic if you do want to do lead gen. You just need to make sure you're approaching it in the right way. But companies that do approach it in the right way can see huge ROI from it. And as always, if you want any help running a demand generation campaign, maybe even one with content syndication, we at Real Access are here to help you. But until then, good luck with your campaigns, and I will see you in the next video.